Sup, nerds, and welcome back to Microtopia. When last we left off, we had just gotten our giant cocoon built with the princess on top, ready to go. We are going to need to take today and basically restructure the base to allow for giant production and to get some of this cleaned up, like I've been talking about for a couple episodes now. So I'll check in at a few points as we get this done. First things first is I want to lay out an area that will work for building our entire giant infrastructure. And I'm thinking right up here is probably the best place. We can just set aside a section of the base to work on this. Uh, in order to get the giant built, by the way, why we have to do all this, if we take a look here, you can see it needs 15 workers, 15 iron workers, 10 drones, 5 pod workers, and 5 of the second tier pod workers. It's going to take a lot. So in order to get all that done, we really need to just have some room. I want this being its own structure that old ants go to when they're ready to funnel in and end their life, and then they pile onto the giant and form the cocoon. So getting a nice clean area to do it will be nice. Yes, we're going to have to cover up some plant life, but that should just funnel more over here and centralize the base a little more when it has to regrow. So I'm not too concerned about that. I'm going to go ahead and start laying down foundation. Can I adjust the angle of this a little bit? There we go. And we'll just start up here and start laying down all this track. So gonna make a nice big area and kind of make this the point from which the base expands back out. It is truly stunning how big this building is. I've gone ahead and relocated it over here, and we're going to keep tossing down some plates. In order to do this, I think it needs 69. I'll double check the math before I build anything, but it needs a nice number of ants coming in total. Small workers might be 89. So what we kind of have to do is get the assemblers built and the combiners built and everything made to be able to get this built up. And then once she turns into the queen, I believe she's going to go onto this concrete monument, so I might as well just move that over there right now and connect those up. And flip that around. So flip that around. There we go. And we'll just get a trail built this way. Don't know if that's completely accurate, but we'll find out. So the pieces we'll need is we'll need a combiner of some kind. And the way to think about this is with ratios. We want there to be the correct ratio of small ants going in. We'll use dividers to split up the trails that come into here. But we need one combiner to make the regular workers. We'll need an assembler to make the iron workers, an assembler to make the pod ants, and I need to expand out the foundation a little more. Once that's done, we'll get our second assembler there for the pod worker 2, and a third one for the drone, and a fourth one for the regular pod worker, so one for each of these. So it's going to take a bit of just building this out, but that's fine. We're in no rush here. Noticing something. A lot of workers have been getting onto the death line holding a larva in their mouth, and I was wondering why. We are legitimately producing larvae faster than we are consuming them. So I think either the answer is another incubator here, which I don't think that's quite right at the moment for a few reasons, or getting more drawing from this stockpile, and I think that's probably the move. We could throw more out towards the jungle, certainly, though this is pretty self-sustaining here. Oh. Yeah, I was trying to get light bulbs back home because we need a supply for the pod workers, and I realize I reassigned that flight point, didn't I? So, let's see. With the desert back online, this flight point, yeah, it's going all the way to the jungle, and it needs to just be going to our standard landing point here to get this route started again, to get light bulbs coming in. I also had a small mess up where these areas got emptied, and that's why our energy is kind of low, and I would like to fix that. So I'll do that as well. We're still waiting on the final iron plates to come in, but we now have at least the basics of the ants we need to get this giant cocoon built up. So we need to have 10 work or 15 workers, 15 iron workers. This is going to make iron workers. We need drones. We need, I think, 10 of those. Yeah, 10 drones, and then 5 each of the pod workers that will be built here. This is making the pod workers, and it'll send them out. So we need a ratio of 30 ants for this one, 15 ants for this one. This is going to be another 10 ants, so 55 ants now. And then another 10 ants for these two, so 65, 66 is the right number. So we need to divide these out evenly into their proper ratios. So we have to take 30, 15, and multiple sets of 10. So what we want to do is make a divider that splits these into multiples of 5. 66, the last one, is the princess herself. So we're not worried too much about that 66. So 65 means that we need a divider that is going to split into 13 groups. So we'll set that up right here, right at the corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This divider will activate 5 times for each of these lines, sending a total of 30 ants out. So our first one is going to go here. That's 5 there. Then we want to send 5 there. Then we want to send 5 to this one, and that's going to get our first 15 out to, or here. We'll make sure each of these has an extra bump before we start getting to the 10. So there's that. We'll just combine those two. So no, that's wrong. Right, there we go. Each of these 3 lines needs 15 ants, so they're going to get an extra 5 before anyone else's. That's these first lines. Then we're starting on the true distribution of making sure every one of these has 10 ants. So here's the second 5, second 5, second 5, and from there we can start connecting these. That gets 5 ants, or 10, yeah, 5 ants, it will be 10. This gets 5 ants. This gets 5 ants. Back up and connecting this once more. This once more. This once more. Did I do my math wrong? This takes 30. This takes 15, 45, 55, 60, 65. That's right. These don't feed directly into here. That's where I made my mistake. And this one goes here. Okay, so that's 3 lines going here, 15, 3 lines going in here, 15, 3 lines going in here, 15, 2 lines going in here, 10, 2 lines going in here, 10. So we have broken out the ratios that we care about. From here, we need another divider coming off of this place. Pretty simple one. These just need to be split evenly in half for the pod workers. So might as well just turn that into one line. So that will get our 65 ants converted into what they need to be converted into. There is, of course, something I just realized, which is that drones are not made with small worker ants, they're made with full worker ants. Probably the cheapest way for me to do this is to make another combiner, and we'll split off more divider lines into that and then feed those in. So 75, 76 ants is the actual number. When I said multiple reasons, what I really meant was I didn't want to try to figure out how to squeeze another incubator in here. But that time has passed. We clearly need one more in. We're running a little short on ants for all this production. Some will be filled once I get smart dispensers open, but that's going to be a bit, and it'll take longer if I don't have more ants. So I might as well make sure all ants are incubated and that we're being efficient with our larval production. The 4 should cover us for quite a while, and really past just the initial getting this built, this is a very easy upgrade to the system, thankfully. So, there we are. We have ants. I just said we didn't have enough ants, and then I looked at our gate, and what is going on here? Why is this so backed up? Does this not connect into itself anymore? This is why I need to repurpose a lot of this. Like, I can make neither heads nor tails out of what's going on in some of this, and I just need to restructure the ant life. We'll move them all up here for a second just to give room. Let the line proceed. Let me see what I'm doing down here. Uh-huh. Do I have enough workers in all my jobs? Like, I don't feel like I do because I don't have anybody. I guess I do have plant cutters. Do I have fabric makers? We've been really short. Oh, we've been short on fabric because we're making all these drones. Guess I need to expand my fabric production. And the quantity of ants is actually shockingly okay. The pod workers covered a lot of the jobs that were eating a lot of ants, I guess. So up here, we nearly have this done. I did a little more retooling. We're going to put in the next combiner now. This will be for getting the, what am I calling it? The drones going. Because I was trying to build drones off of this originally with regular iron workers. Or with regular workers, that's incorrect. I should have been making a combiner down here, making workers through that and setting them up here. So we need to get 20 ants down here. And I think the same for, so drone is regular workers, pod workers I think are small ants, thankfully. We'll see when that's built. But these are coming from that. I will double check the math once everything is done and make sure I've not horrifically messed things up, but this should be taking 15 still. So let's get those 1, 2, 3 ants from each set go there. Then this down here, this combiner. I want each one of those taking 2 of the lines because these are what should be making the actual workers. So that's 40. Oh, what am I doing? So that's going to be 40, 20 ants going here, turning into 10 workers, which then turn into 10 drones up here. And that should be right. So 30 ants for that, 20 ants for that, 50, 15 ants for this, 65. Then this is going to be 75, 76 with the princess. Okay. That number feels right to me. And then all the workers can we'll just do it like this for visual clarity. Connect those two. Yeah. That is then our giant processing plant. We are going to have to get a flow point in for the workers to come here. And I think we're going to be running that off of these elder lines, ideally. So, ideally, I just take old ants and start shuffling them up here, at least for a bit. But that might honestly be a little overcomplicated, so I need to think about how I'm going to do that. While I'm mulling over how to get the ants I need to get over here to start feeding this whole thing, it honestly might just be I divert ants from the system for a bit, but I'll think on that. What I also need to do is get this energy pod 2 supply going. The ideal way to do that's going to be pod workers again, and we're going to run them along here. So what my thought is we have like a stream of 6 pod workers or so coming in, grabbing energy from the desert island, carrying it over here to the main island, and then heading back. So we'll make a little loop here. Can I make that loop? Oh no. Is my bridge not able to actually build? 1 second. I guess I have to delete my bridge. No, if there's not enough space, hang on. This one can hold concrete. I'll make one for wires. Just kind of going for a quick solution here. I don't remember if there was anything else in them, but concrete and wire, there we go. All right, God, that's a lot of concrete. We'll try this again, and lesson learned about how small bridges need to be built, I suppose. Transport. So we need to make sure that each end is not in this stuff, that it's pointed out a bit. From here, can you work? Awesome. Except this one needs to have the same treatment. Production or transport, small bridge, going from this way all the way over. That's a little frustrating to learn. How about right here? There we go. That will at least get us an egress point that can go back there. That can connect like that. Okay, so we have a loop. It's not the prettiest of loops, but it's a functional loop. This loop will feed a dispenser right up here that will then dump into a storage down here. And we can make multiple dispensers, but in time this will just be a smart dispenser. And this large stockpile is going to contain energy pods. Now, the ideal workers for this, I think, are going to be more pod workers, where I've been slowly replenishing the supply of this after some initial mistakes, and this system has been cleaned up to make sure pod workers don't just die here again. So, problem is, I need pod worker tier 2. The only place to get tier 2 energy right now is up here. So I think the assembler needs to be built up here for the initial ones. We will set up a line of pod workers harvesting from all this, and we will also tap into this. So an assembler right about here to cover it all should do it. Then we collect there, we distribute down here, and maybe a little assembler down here that's just existing to refresh these guys. It'll take a few resources, but I think it's worth it. So I'm not going to bother with big foundation structures for these, just because I don't think it's really worth it for something that isn't going to be that complex compared to other things. So something like this should do nicely, at least for a starting setup. We're waiting on some more screws to get the last slinger, but a couple stops for them to be dropped off. We'll make some pod workers here, assign them down here. For now, we just need some basic workers gathering those, and apparently we have none going. What happened? Is this more to do with my fabric supply again? Am I Okay, we're finally getting some fabric cutters down here. I don't... This has to do with that backup that we saw. So, workers coming in, getting some plant fiber to drop off. We'll check in when everything's back up and running, and once I figured out something to do with all these workers. Sent a few drones down here to do what drones do best, which is to get things kick-started. We also got some old gates after each slinger, just so we can make sure the pod workers are going back home. Could probably make another slinger down here now that I'm looking at it. The point of this, those are storage. The point of this is just to get some of the green energy stored up so that when it's time to... Are you not activating off the trip? Okay. So when it's time to get everything going in here, we can just send some pod workers down, get them made. They will begin all this, and we should have them have a basic stockpile to keep themselves alive, basically. Looks like everything's working. So that's not going to take much maintenance. We have the old gates to get new pod workers coming. And now I just need to start grabbing some extra small ants from a few spots and bringing them down there. Assuming I have the lights switches, which I don't. We're going to take that away for a bit. We don't need to be sending any light switches back home. They could just go back and get some more larvae and keep this number going up. That's an impressively large number. Is this all clustered up again? A little bit, yeah. A little bit. Really need to sort this out. That's probably going to be next episode at this point, once I have the giant cocoon. And here we have it. We have our first pod workers coming in. We're going to get about 10 of the second tier pod workers down here. We already got one that's down doing some good work. You can see how much faster they move with these second tier energy. And what's their maximum lifespan? Looks like it's around 10 minutes now, which I believe is twice that of the original pod worker ants. So they're in, they're moving, they're grabbing some stuff while they're initially spawning, though that won't be constantly hit. And when they are ready to age, they'll just move on out and get recycled into here. We're going to get about 10 in this line, and then I'm going to pull, like I said, about 6 down to here once that gets started, and see what I can do about getting this system up and running and just getting some energy pods back home. Our border crossing is officially made. We're getting our first pod worker going right now, getting recharged. They come down here. This is a stockpile gate, the first one of these I'm using. It checks to make sure that up here, this energy stockpile that we've made has at least 20 in it. If it does, we're going to go ahead and grab some off of it and head onto the bridge. We should see that happen right now. Then just brings it over the bridge, drops it off. So we'll have a constant little supply going back and forth, the supply chain. Eventually, I might start using this to get copper and so on back over to the main base, but right now that's not something as important. But now we have a constant flow of energy coming in, and as we get more pod workers, that'll speed up a bit. Trying to get the old ants upgraded first. We'll see if that can happen. I might need to throw 1 or 2 more down here in the future. But yeah, with that, we can actually start using this once we get a little bit of a stockpile built back up. Everything is built out here, and considering the state of things, I'm going to. Well, our population has dropped back down, apparently. I don't understand how that happens sometimes, but I'm not going to complain about it. It should catch right back up here soon. I think it's just all the drones flying over feeding the desert did this, maybe. Yeah, we're dropping more off in there. So I can slow the desert production chain a bit. I can. Honestly, the desert's doing what I need it to now, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut this off for the moment and keep it from sending more out there. But until then, we need to figure out what to do here. And I think the answer is that if anything makes it here to this point and it's a small ant, that's when we're taking it off and sending it over to the princess. So we'll just do a caste split. We'll make that caste be small workers. Ideally, I would want to use old ones, but considering we're running out of surplus of workers anyway, it feels a little pointless to go that far. So we'll send these ones off, get them going, and with all the materials in place here, now we just need to make sure all the pieces are hooked up. This was going to be making our pod workers. Yes, our empty ones. This makes our full ones. This one makes worker ants. This makes iron workers, drones, everything. All right. We should have a good stockpile of light bulbs, so I feel comfortable or adding a light bulb dispenser there. We'll get all the stockpiles assigned and then watch as our first queen comes to life. Our first small ant is taking the cascade out and heading to be recycled into the new queen. So yeah, I like this taking just any excess after all the roles are filled. It should help keep these lines clear, help make sure it's workers and iron workers getting out to the main jobs. And while small ants will fill in those places as gaps need to be filled back in, it should keep things moving pretty smoothly. So off they went. They're the first in the combiner. Here comes the second. And we'll just watch what happens as the worker heads up into here. Must be interesting if these things have any kind of sentience at all, knowing that your job is to pass the butter, as it were, or at least to become part of a cocoon around your new princess. So there's our first one. It'll be a while until all the rest fill in, but here's our next, and we should see this system working out pretty smoothly to keep everything flowing in these. Yeah, we have just one last double check, 15 going into each of these to make that. We have the 15 that are going into here to make the iron workers. We have the 10 drones are going to come from 20 small workers going here. And this process will just continue on, and we should see Queen here fill up over time. Just leave it here to let this run for a bit. nice seeing things just work. I had to come in and do a few little tweaks here, splitting this so that the drones were being fed, the workers for the drones were being fed evenly in, and creating this overflow because I realized we might have some extra workers be created before our final drone is in. We'll see right now if that's going to be needed or not. But we have a ball of ants surrounding the princess. She should be ready to go any moment now, and we will see what happens after that. Okay, the overflow was necessary. Glad I put it in. We'll get another princess in there soon and just keep this production going, but for now, let's watch this ball form. There it is, complete. Not sure what was happening there, but they're shuddering. Bees will form balls like this sometimes to attack invader wasps. It's interesting that they've adapted that to be for the princess here. But we'll go ahead and grab another one soon. But here we go. We have a lesser giant made. Another hungry little queenie coming out. She's just a full giant at this point, it looks like. Climbs on up. We'll complete that. Queen is a fertile female ant, or giant is a fertile female ant destined to become a queen. To achieve this, you must create giants that will take to the skies during the nuptial flight to mate and establish new colonies. Successfully releasing a giant rewards you with giant points, which you can use on the development tree. Yeah, so that's how we're going to get those little yellow diamonds. Uh, we should have a drone flight appearing any moment, but there is another option. For now, I'm going to take an inventor here. And do I have a spare drone running around somewhere? Should be off of this. Oh, you're old as dirt. If I can use you, actually, that's great. No, you're just too old. You, minute and 7, that's perfect. Get over here. So we'll get another princess going. We need a giant tower. Interesting. So they can climb up and down these, but that is not where they need to go. They need this, a giant tower. I'll set that up right here. We'll move this concrete monument away because that's not what I should have been using that for. How long is their lifespan? Infinite. Thank God. Get her back there. Get this built. What's that needing? Just more steel? Okay, that should be any moment now that that's done. Eventually I want to make a few of those, but we can see that the process just works, thankfully. Getting our new queen here, our new princess. We'll just chain that in down here. Just make a quick little run of this. We'll sort these trails next episode, I promise. This is a little much even for me. But once she's in, she should hop on, and then the other ants should follow in right behind her. Anyway, the next thing we need after this is going to be a way to start the drone flights. And you might remember we have these thumpers. This is going to be something I'm working on next episode. That is a lot of little materials that we can use to do this. But we can build that in the desert area and get that going. And hopefully that won't be an issue. We'll chill out and wait until the next drone flight, and we can end the episode once we have our first giant taking off to establish a new colony somewhere. Up she goes, climbing up nice and easily. And here she sits, waiting for the time. In the meantime, we'll get another one going, build another tower, all that basic. Kind of funny watching her come up with all of these that are going to file right behind her, ready to go. They're excited to get started. While we're waiting, I figured I would at least set down the basis of the thumper, see what we need. It's going to be resin, of course, and then some factory, yes, factory parts, diodes and LEDs, and some energy pod threes. Those we'll need to bring over from the other side. Should be easy to set up a pretty quick transfer there. But the factory parts are going to be a little more interesting to get going. Right now, we're not really shuffling any ants out to the desert. We can change that though. If we want to get something made pretty easily, let's see, what does a factory itself take? Take some resin. So we'll get a couple of these made. Interesting that it's 3 drop off points, so we can easily set up for the 3 inputs. I like that. Huh. We'll get a pair of factories set up out here then. Probably have to move some more things around, but we might as well just keep extending this path here. Can get rid of can move these temporary stockpiles elsewhere. Then set up the factories. And see about getting leads in one. So it's input of 3 and then a small stockpile in the back. Okay. We'll probably put this here then? Yeah, like that. Then another one mirroring it right here. With maybe different materials. So we'll need to get some resin over. We'll need to make some diodes to make this, which I'm guessing those are made in the workshop then, but the leads almost certainly will be made in the factory. Let's double check that. Down here we can see this needs. This workshops don't make diodes. How do I make the diodes? The facility, not the factory. Hang on a second. A facility then takes a bunch of different things, including a lot of glass, which we'll need to get the production chain running here. So we'll get that going. That's probably going to be able to make everything we need then. Just 2 facilities, get those down, get those up and running. It's going to be a focus of next episode, but might as well place them down right now. And turn this back on to get that working. I do wonder about sustainability of some of these resources. Like iron, we have eternal quantity of. Copper, we don't. Glass, I don't think we do. At least not on this island. We can continually get rubber out of the growths out here. Resin will continually spawn out here in the circuitries. And I just wonder if future islands are going to have other options for us in similar ways. Eventually, I will need to harvest that island of all those circuitries, but uh, copper and glass are the 2 I see as limiting factors right now, especially since glass is being used, well, frankly, to make these shines. And how much of it we'll be able to have before we run out is a question I think worth asking. I'm not sure. We should have our nuptial flights starting any moment now. It's been quite a while since I've seen one. But we do have our infrastructure going. Everything's running smoothly. We're maybe burning a few too many ants on the side colonies on the desert and the jungle right now, just making sure we get some of these rare resources in. Making sure we keep our glass supply going, that we have light bulbs here to keep feeding into our giant production, that we have, well, the energy's kind of taken care of itself to the point where I'm thinking if this ever fills up, we'll shift things around and start feeding the queen some. I would also love to start getting some pod workers out here next time to bring in some energy purely for queen feeding to keep our numbers high. Yeah, I'm just sitting here wondering what are we going to do about copper in the future. I have seen that our next island is going to be the toxic island. I don't think I can make anything for that just yet. The game's clearly wanting me to focus on giant towers for a bit, so I'm doing that. So I just hope that glass becomes renewable in time as well. Otherwise, that's a limiting factor over the course of the game and something that has to be carefully managed. Achievement just triggered, and that means that our giant has taken off to join this flight. There she goes. Our mating flight has begun. We'll just watch her. Maybe we should give her some privacy, actually, even though she's flying all overhead. But flight is going on. We have plenty of research to spend. I've already determined the first one here, of course, is going to go to our smart dispensers, smooth things out there. I do think there is going to be some value in getting the thumper, getting everything set up there. That's been sort of working on its own. It takes 200 steel, which has not been a smooth process to get in getting the desert restarted. Jungle is doing its thing, but as our first reproductive flight takes place, she gives us one giant point as she flies away off to start her newest colony. Unlocked to the battery worker ant. I'm not sure what that will be about, but we can see here we've cleaned things up. We really need to be repurposing more digger ants. I need to figure out what's going on there. Might be one of the other colonies. But we've sent off a giant into the world. We. How did we have pod workers die? That's a little concerning. But we are making true progress here. With this, we're going to unlock smart dispensers, save ourselves so much pain, so much stress, so many ants going off to the side. And with that, that's going to be the tool that lets us draw from any stockpile that's around. So we're going to use that to rebuild our entire main base. Start maybe setting up lead trackers. We'll work on getting another giant to get proper digger ants built, to get a lot of this other work done. I mean, ant launcher would be so nice, and we could stop the drone wars. We need more giants. We need the thumper going. We need light bulb production running. So our path next time is clear. Clean up our base, get the thumper built, get more giants out. But for now, this has been a very long episode to record, and I do want to address the fact that these episodes are taking so long to record means that this episode is already going to be very late. I'm sure you've noticed, oh, these guys are done. I need to find some more rubble maybe somewhere. There might not be any more on the main base for them to get, so that, I mean, it's not like we're short concrete. Get that out. I've just been stockpiling it over here. And anyway, we will try to get some more giants, the thumper, get the main base organized. This worked fantastically, but the episodes are taking so long that I might have to drop down to 2 a week. So if you see something else on Wednesday or Friday, don't worry. I'm not stopping Microtopia. I just have other games I'd like to show off as well. And with the time this takes, it's worth the investment in some other things. So thank you all for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day.